What are the restrictions for when when the red light comes, even though we're in red light, but what are the restrictions?
That's a really good question, because I know that sometimes when we change from one system or one level to another, people can feel a little bit unsure about what the rules actually are. Most things can actually carry on. Even though we're dealing with COVID, most things can carry on and we don't have lockdowns. We use other things to help keep people safe. So the most important thing at the traffic light system is vaccination. And so that's why at the traffic light system, if we have events like this, we all came in at the door and we showed the vaccine pass. So that becomes particularly important at red light level, that gatherings and things should happen only if people have got the vaccination pass. So that's probably the number one thing, because it does help to keep us safer. If we're all coming together here, we can still meet at red light level, but if we know that we're all vaccinated, we know that we're all keeping a lot safer, we're reducing the risk of transmission. And there are probably two other important things. The first is that we don't have big events, and that's probably the main difference between the orange level and the red level. At the orange level, as long as you've got your vaccine certificate, you can get 1,000 people together and you can have an event. At the red level, it's capped at 100. And the reason for that is that if we do have COVID out there in the community, it's the really big events, that's what spreads it to lots and lots of people. And so even though we know Omicron's going to spread, we don't want it to spread fast, because that's when it would put lots of pressure on our hospitals. If we can slow it down, that's better for everyone. So we stop the big events. That's probably the big change. The third one that's really important at red level, we use our masks a lot more. So rules that are a little bit elevated for mask wearing. And my approach to mask wearing at level red, basically if I'm inside anywhere with other people outside of my family, wear a mask. If I'm going outside even, and if I'm walking down, I was on Queen Street yesterday, if I'm outside and there's lots of other people around, wear a mask. At school, yeah. So again, like I said at the beginning, at red, most things still carry on. And that is quite an important thing. We know that we're going to have COVID with us for quite a long time, and we can't keep everything closed. So schools will generally carry on at red level. There might be some very particular situations. If there was a big flare-up of infection at a particular school, we might say, okay, for a week we might close that school down by itself while we get on top of it. But we're very unlikely to close all schools down. So school will probably continue. But we'll do some of those extra things to help keep you safe. We now obviously have vaccination for people of nearly all ages, including young people and school students. And so in some of our schools, we will be setting up vaccination drives to help get our young people vaccinated. You will have also seen that as part of our masking approach, we're saying that everyone in schools from year 4 upwards needs to wear a mask at school. And so that will help to keep people safer. We're also going to invest in these machines, you probably know about it more than me, Ben, called air purifiers. And they will mean that we get the air, COVID carries if the air is very still and if people are breathing in and out the same air. So we want to get good ventilation in our classrooms. In summertime, some learning can happen outside, we can open the windows, but we're also going to be investing in technology, those air purifiers, to minimise the risk at school as well. So school will carry on, but a lot of extra things to make it as safe as possible.
For your projections, when do you see the country going to green?
We don't quite know when that will be. The red, orange, green, they recognise that COVID's going to be around. So red is when we know that COVID is in the community and there's a high risk that a lot of people are going to get it, and our hospitals and our health system could be overwhelmed. So we have the slightly higher restrictions to minimise that risk. Orange is when there's some risk of that happening and we need to get ready. Green means that COVID is probably still out there in the community, but we don't have a risk of it really flaring up in big numbers. Now, the particular situation we have at the moment is we're dealing with Omicron. And if you look at one of the advantages we have is we tend to get these things a little bit later than other countries, so we can observe and see how these things play out. It would be unlikely we would go from red straight down to green. So it's likely to be a step down to orange before a step down to green. The thing that's a little bit of an upside about Omicron is it looks like it tends to go through populations quite quickly. You get peaks and then it does come down. So while I couldn't predict exactly when it will happen, you would imagine that we'll get a peak in the next couple of months and then things will start edging down. And that would be the time that we can perhaps start at edging down, firstly through to orange and hopefully then to green. Even though the big thing that we're dealing with at the moment is COVID, that we remember there's a lot of other stuff we've got to work on together as well. And that's where our Labour team met together at the beginning of this year. And that's one of the main messages the Prime Minister gave to us, is that this year, yes, we have to keep managing COVID and keep people safe, but there's a much broader agenda and set of issues that we've also got to move on with. We can't just put all that other stuff on ice until COVID is finished. So I take that point on board and completely agree with it. And one of those is the ongoing work to build an inclusive society and economy for all people across all communities and all ethnicities. And we know that we've got a way to go before we truly achieve that we still, across many of our communities, have a lack of opportunity, that people do continue to experience prejudice and racism and be locked out of opportunities, particularly in the job market. And one of my big beliefs about how we do move towards building a truly inclusive and cohesive community, if you don't deal with economic inclusion, then you don't fix the other problems. That it's very difficult for people to truly reach, and communities to truly reach their potential and have a good standard of living and feel included if they're economically disadvantaged. And the big play there is about job market. Okay, education's important, but people really being able to get opportunities to bring their skills to bear and contribute and earn a good living for their families and be able to support their communities. And there are still barriers there, clearly. So the answer is yes, we recognise that's important. Yes, we want to continue to be working on that. That was one of the big drivers behind the setting up and increased resourcing for the ministry, was for them to be able to start playing a more active role in this kind of work. Previously, when they were in office, they're very good people. They're kind of a policy shop. Their job was mainly to tell ministers in the government some of the things that we could be doing, to be supporting groups at quite a low level, that kind of thing. They now have a much greater status and they're at the table with the heads of other government departments and they're more resourced to actually be doing things as well. And so that work, which has been led by Priyanka Radhakrishnan, the Minister for Ethnic Communities and Inclusion, is starting to come forward. So there are things that they've put in place, for example, now like a public sector internship system, so that we directly as a public service, the government, we directly lead the way. We say, actually, we're going to proactively reach into our ethnic communities and give people an opportunity to come in, to build experience, to get good jobs within the public service, to be able to actually change for the better the public service, to make it more reflective of our community, but to directly provide opportunity. And there are a reasonable number of those opportunities which we're now rolling out, but it's small in the bigger picture. So that's partly about us leading the way and saying to the private sector, we now need you to step up and really do this in numbers and really get scale going so that people have got access to that opportunity. And then there's what can we do as individual MPs at our constituency level. So that's something that I'm really open to working with the community on. I'm always willing to be able to be continuing to advocate, to be tapping on shoulders, to be trying to connect people together, whether that's talking with employers, talking with educational institutes, connecting to communities. That is very much work that we can be doing at a local level as MPs to complement the bigger systems level and cultural level change that we need to be achieving. And I'm very keen and eager to be picking up that work with you and to be getting our other MPs on board to be supporting that.
So thank you so much. And it's been amazing just having you here and responding to all the questions, and yeah, thank you so much.